welcome to Tribe Speaking. In this edition of Tribe Speaking, we are discussing on racism, especially focusing on the Northeast students residing in metropolitan cities, either for higher studies or for searching for employment. In the previous part of this edition, we have discussed on what is racism, how Northeast students face racism in colleges, rents, or marketplace, and the role of college authority. In the second part of this edition on racism, we will discuss on the mindset of racist people. Why do they have racist mindset, how it develops, and social and cultural underpinnings. To discuss on this topic, we have Professor Bibinaz Thokchom. She came to Delhi 20 years ago for higher studies, and now she teaches social psychology at School of Human Studies, Ambedkar University. We also have Professor Ramananda Mayangamam, who also came to Delhi for higher studies 25 years ago, who teaches physical chemistry at Kirodimal College, University of Delhi. He has been involved with various activities for the welfare of SC/ST students and students from Northeast community. I welcome both the professors. Let me start with Professor Bibinaz. Professor, we have discussed on what is racism in the previous part. Now, can you please tell the types of racism and how it leads to hate crime?
Okay, there are a few types of racism that one can look into. It's not, I would say this is not these are not the only types of racism that I will be talking about, but there are few which is like, commonly understood or commonly talked about. So I'm going to mention about it. So first of all, I'd like to say, talk about implicit and explicit kinds of racism. So when we say implicit, we already talked about the concept of racism yesterday, so I'm continuing from there. Explicit racism is an act of showing racist attitudes and beliefs we consciously hold against another racial group outside of our own. Okay, so it's more of a covert in nature, and it's more easy to detect, such as someone calling out, hey nigger, do you have some drugs, or hey corona chinky momo, or like physically attacking someone with racist remarks based on the race that you belong to, or say direct provocation or direct rejection by a people from a dominant race. In a sense, for example, it could be when the Northeast students or people look out for rent rooms in different places of Delhi. The land sometimes the landowner, the flat owners would openly declare that they don't allow Northeast people to rent rooms in their house, etc. So that's explicit, which is more visible, which is more observable, outwardly. But nowadays, it's not actually a time of explicit racism because of with the coming of human rights activism, human rights conventions, etc. So it's now more shifted towards the implicit kind of racism, which we also call modern racism. It's a subtle form of racism. So implicit racism is more of a subconscious and unconscious racist attitude about a group or a race, which is usually confounded with other factors. And now the racist act or slur which people use it's confounded with many other factors, and there's a confusion which is created alongside. So because it operates at the subconscious and unconscious level, it can come out quite unintentionally as a slip or as a reflex. Because when you have something which is automatically conditioned in you at a subconscious level, at certain point of time, there are chances of coming out of that subconscious when something triggered in a particular situation. Okay, so or maybe one find indication on one may find indications on certain changes of words that expresses as completely opposite stance than was expressed a minute ago, okay, or seconds ago. So for example, notice people's notice people searching the same in the same example. I'm making a distinction. Notice people searching for rooms to rent. Suppose the flat owner's first gesture was to show the room, and on the second thought he says, on a flip of a second thought, he says that I'm sorry, I've already rented this room, and now you're confused whether it is the person is rejecting to give the room, which he said that he already have it, but now it's changing side, because whether it's based on your race or based on other factors, you get confused. Okay, so there are plenty of examples which one can give.
So
I can
what
also
I,
come up from, yes, and there are other, like, was one more kind of racism,
yeah, please tell me.
which I wanted to talk about, which is, this implicit racism is more insidious in nature. We may easily recognize explicit act of racism, such as calling out someone a racial slur, but people don't consciously recognize how implicit racist acts and logics to um, and explain it, like logics to explain it, also has indications of racism in action. Okay, so it's very difficult to detect. Okay, another level of racism is, I want to put it together as interpersonal. Both of these can happen quite interpersonally, the implicit and explicit. And interpersonal versus, I'm coming to interpersonal versus institutionalized, which we also call systemic racism. So interpersonal racism is when racial attack is targeted at individuals belonging to a perceived inferior race during interpersonal encounters. Though the immediate target is an individual, the far target is always is the visibly distinctive race that the person belongs to. Like we talk about, prejudice is always about a race. It's not just about one individual. So systemic racism or institutional racism refers to how ideas of one race as superior to another are captured in everyday thinking at the systems level. Okay, so now this becomes a part of your everyday life, taking in the big picture of how society operates rather than looking at one-to-one interactions. So these systems can include laws and regulations, and often those who speak on racism from the northeastern side of India basically talks about, take these for this example of ASPA as an unacceptable law, which is like violating human rights here. Okay, so this is an example. The systems can also include regularization of the language of a dominant culture in the name of bringing people together, while not even recognizing the language of the marginalized, such as UGC in 2016, I think, attempted to insert Hindi language as a compulsory course for all UG students, irrespective of their background, reasons, race, stage, etc., which was problematic, and we had a huge debate in the institution itself. Um, that is one thing, and it could also include questioning the type of food habits. These are some of the common examples I'm giving. It becomes a part of your everyday life. So we have a lot of problem with people when we mingle with the locals, or so we manage to sort of get a space for ourselves with the locals. Then there's always constant consciousness which is around us about our food habits, because of how people react to the food habits that we have. Okay, while accepting more familiar ones, the ones which are more familiar to the majority. So suppose eating of Hawaii jar, ngari, etc., which are smelly food, bamboo shoots, etc., which are termed as smelly foods, but there is also a politics around the food habits. Some foods, even though they are smelly, uh, are still accepted by the majority. But when it comes to when the food habits is attached to some sociological, some social
Like,
background or racial background, then it is not accepted. Okay, and media negligence and stuff like that. So these are some of the one could quickly mention some of these types as understood.
so now I want to come to Professor Ramananda. So Professor Bibinaz explained broadly divided into two types of racism. So when we discuss about some of the extreme forms of racism that happens against the Northeast students, like beating them up, in some cases even killing them. So why do you think that such type of racist acts are being committed? Do they think that they will? Do they think that they will also get social support while they commit such type of act? Do they think that they can easily bend the laws? Do they think that they are having a higher moral superiority against the ethnic group? Why do you think such type of acts are being committed against the Nordic students?
Yeah, the issues of the racisms we have been discussing uh, more on the types of racism. I think Bibinaz has already talked about in details. But actually, the ache which has been faced by the Northeast people are ranging from different form in the society. When you look at I'm not directly coming to the question you asked. I'm just starting from the crime and the head crime, then the racist act that's been facing by the Northeast people. Now, I just add two few points to that. The first, I will call as the form of racism, which has been even reported in the Besbora Committee, which was submitted in 2014 by the Besbora, with the former IS officers. And the committee was constituted by Ministry of Home Affairs. So they are, particularly mentioned in that report, that is overcharging of taxi and auto fares, by the drivers, by the owners, the Northeast people who are traveling, and then the increased rent and electric bill. Why I am saying like this? Because they have created a mindset that these people do not know what is the exact price of that, whether auto or whether bill or whether the rent. So they do not have the common knowledge of that, because they are new to the society, they're new to Delhi and city. So they have created a kind of thought that they can charge whatever they want, right? So
Mostly
that
people
is
are
another form of,
uncivilized.
yeah. So this is what a racist nature, maybe you can say, is an implicit racist in terms of whatever the Bibinaz has said. Then even after paying you can say, the security deposit to the rent and where you stay, and after you leave that house, they are refused to refund it. That is another form of racism. And even very commonly, the most girls are facing the racist, is they are passing the lewd comment, teasing and molestation, very common in public places, in the isolated place. And even most of the time, even ourselves, even myself also, and some of my colleagues also, they are mistaken as foreigners in tourist places like Taj Mahal, India Gate, and some places of tourist spot in India. So when you move to that, they charge more, and they're saying you are foreigners, like that. So they do not want to, they do not ask us the ID and whether you are from which state, something like that. They never ask. They just charge it. They said you are foreigners. So that notion, that kind of the the concept they have already created. So that is what we say is intentional. They do not want to find out exact origin or exact person belongs to, but they preconceive themselves, and they put that things on us. And another is, we can say, sexual harassment and physical assault is very common. You remember, maybe in 2003, the one girl from Mizoram was raped in the Dolokwan in the night. So these kind of things are happening. I'm just giving you an example. Then you can say harassment at workplace. They are not giving the salary to the staff of the Northeast people. And even you can say the in terms of whatever you ask question, like they have looked down on us. That is what racism is. They do not consider the people from Northeast as an Indian or a citizen. They consider they are superior, and they try to put on and look down to us. So that is the racist kind of things. And even in the beginning, I'm not talking about today's position. I'm talking about some years back. when you go to the police stations, police even did not register the case for them and for us. That's why they also thought that they have a right to harass them, and nobody can stop them. So that's why the kind of harassment has increased in different form. And I just want to put on record that the when you face a racist kind of comment or some kind of act, if you resist, then the physical conflict has been taken place. That is another leading to the severe kind of crime. I'm giving an example in about 2010 around, the group of not a student has been beaten up by the Punjabi mob in the Vijayanagar. Now, how the fight was started? Some of the North students went for looking for the rent, and the one of the boy from that local, they comment on them, right? Then they try to explain them, you should not tell to us like that. Then the mob comes and they started beating on. They didn't even ask whether these things are happening for good or not, or why these things are happening, what is the reason for that, what is the cause of that. But they started beating on them because they are a majority. So this is how the actually resist not a single act, but it can lead to the severe crime. Even my friends has been beaten many of times in such
They
cases, and in
cannot
many of
tolerate, they cannot accept the fact that some of these people, the other people who are coming from Northeast, are questioning or are speaking against them. That's
yes, definitely, yes. The moment you try to resist them, then they think why these people who are in minority have a right to say against us. So that they have started, thinking more superior thing. And exactly this is happening in the Nindo Tanya case. He just came to Delhi for a few, meeting friends, and he studied in Jalandhar, and he came for a few days. And whenever he moved to market and buy something essential item, and they started beating him. And there are some argument, and after that they have been beating him, and that lead to that of that boy in 2014. So such actually the thing is, the mindset is like more superior than the people who are staying in minority. So since our look are different, or people are in minority, they actually develop themselves that they have a right to harass them, and they have a right, nobody can stop them. So that is the main mindset they have created by themselves. And you can see the examples recently happened in Vijayanagar. The man who is 40 years old sprayed pan on the girl's body. Even he aimed for the face of the girls, while sprayed. But since moving on the body, so what will be the mindset of that person? This thing, but they can't do anything. They can't do anything against me, so I can do whatever I feel like. Even I am very surprised whenever some small kid in the roadside in many places in Delhi, like Balkaganj, Vijayanagar, Nehruvia, and even the South Delhi, they comment on the Northeast people in a different manner and a kind of harassment. And their parents and even their local, seniors did not stop them. That is very surprising to us. This is wrong. Even I cannot do, and my child cannot do that, because we do not taught from the beginning, and we have been taught by our parents that do not do those kind of things. And
it
by
is
looking at,
it is led to such an extent that there is no respect even for elders also.
yeah, even elders are making joke by many of people. Even when our parents come for excursion or come for tour, many of time, even senior citizen has been harassed by many people in the market or in the local place. So this is how harassment has been increasing and increasing. The mindset is increasing. The intensities are increasing. The crimes are increasing. That is the major concern for all of us, because we need to find out what is actual problems. As Bibinaz has already mentioned, they have a notion to treat us indifferently because we eat different food. They said you have a very pungent smell food like bamboo soup and the fermented fish, etc., etc. We also,
I think there's some technical issue. Hello, I think there's
we
some.
also know.
Yeah, Professor.
Hello.
Yeah, please tell.
Yeah. So the problem is, like, many of food we don't like, the local food, we can say, even they are very smelly whenever you move to the local, but we don't complain it because we know that this is their food. But whenever our turn is come, when we cook it and that smell goes out, and they say this is wrong
They
and
can't
this is
tolerate that
yeah.
something from outside or some other people is coming and residing in their society. They can't tolerate that.
Yeah, and they think that we don't have freedom to cook ourselves, and we don't have freedom to cook our food for eating. So that is what the mindset, which is
So,
very against the people of the Northeast.
yeah, so I want to come to Professor Bibinaz. So after such type of physical confrontation, which may even lead to death or may even lead to somebody being admitted to hospital, very, like serious issues. After such type of confrontation, do you think that majority of the people who have committed such crime, do you think that they feel guilty after such acts, or do you think that they are seeking revenge? What type of mindset do they have after such attacks or after such confrontation?
Okay. Uh, okay. This is, when we talk about mindset, we are also in a way trying to look at what are the thinking process. So, to understand someone's thinking process is not an easy task. So it's not there is no easy way to actually answer this question. There's always uneasiness because we are going to infer things from the observations and readings and analysis of those things that we encounter. So to briefly express for now, the above mentioned systemic racism existing in the social systems, which becomes a part of your everyday life, act as an overarching logic for the everydayness of racism faced by Northeast people in the metro cities. So maybe there's a need for more elaborate kind of research work in order to come to the actual mindset. But for now, I'm going to just share some of my observation, which is to do with, like, I see racist Indians, in a way we can say that they have, like you've already mentioned about having a sense of superiority in their mind. So racist Indians, and I don't also want to completely generalize by saying that all Indians are racist or all non-Northeasterners are racist. But I'm particularly saying racist Indians can be said to have superiority complex commonly found in a bully. Okay, so we often talk about there's a bully in the school. Racism is an act of bully in a way. Okay, and there are some psychological understandings about the understanding the mindset of the bully, if you put it this way. However, there are also vulnerable sides of the bully. So I'm going to come to this so that we have a better understanding of it. Okay, so see, the moral judgments are not always necessarily contingent. Often when uh, uh, we talk about any kind of social crime, there's a tendency of general public to shift the blame to the poor or to the weaker side of the society, saying that, oh, they are illiterate or they are poor, so they would steal or they would do something which leads to some kind of social crime. But I would like to say that moral judgments are not necessarily contingent to the educational qualification or degree one holds. So I just wanted to highlight this because of many Indians, they do have this shift of blame, like this blame game around. Okay, so now coming to the characteristics of a bully, which a racist takes, is quite often they have their own unresolved emotional issues, and they completely lack these pro-social behavior, pro-social attitude. Okay, of about thinking about helping another person who's like also coexisting just like that, just like any other person. Okay, so there's a scapegoat theory. I will have to understand these explanations given by the theories, because these are not my theories, right? But these are general explanations given from different thinkers, well-known thinkers, world-famous thinkers. So I think we need to consider some of these points. So the scapegoat theory of racism would explain racist acts stemming from the tendency to blame someone someone else for one's own problems. And then that is exactly what is happening. When people have, racist as a bully is not a person who's always powerful. Let's also understand that. Okay. They act, this is a kind of disguise that they put for themselves in order to assert that, they are the superior one. But there are also vulnerable, and there's vulnerability within, and they are trying to and they have this tendency to blame someone else for their own problems, a process which is often results in feelings of even more prejudice towards the person they are blaming. Okay, person or group they are blaming. So so the ones who are perceived as more vulnerable by these racists or lacking social support, in short, inferior at the receiving, they become the receiving end of scapegoating. Okay, they also completely lack personal and the civic awareness. um, Interestingly enough, it appears that most racists who are bullying people around are completely unaware of how they are perceived how they are perceived unless confronted by the person who's being targeted. Often they find ways to justify their behavior, and they have no sense of empathy or sympathy for the other who fall prey for his bullying. For the most part, they consider themselves as well liked. It's quite interesting. Well liked, feeling like a hero. That feeling like someone who's who's powerful, someone like a hero that gets away easily by subjugating a weaker person. Okay. So, though this is usually just a result of fear-based manipulation, it can be quite temporary, but they enjoy this kind of thrill. There's a thrill that they enjoy out of bullying another person, out of subjugating a weaker, a so-called considered weaker person. Okay. So in the context of racism, the racist takes pride in getting away with their misconducts because the target person, the social system that we have been talking about, and as well as the judicial system, we should not neglect it. The judicial system, media, everything can do nothing about it. Okay, so they just can get away. The whole system which is surrounding us is also giving them strength to continue. It's like it becomes a perpetuating factor to continue doing what the kind of misconducts that they have been indulging in. Okay, so now what kind of people? It's important to us for them to understand a little deeper. Not just thinking about them as powerful, dominating, and putting ourselves as in the state of victims always. We can also look a little further into what is really troubling them. So now, what kind of people? Let's think together. What kind of people would really take pride in making another's life miserable? People with low self-esteem. Okay. So people with low self-esteem, and I would say racists, especially the ones who are acting out, would have a low self-esteem. Likewise, racists have low self-esteem, a difficult upbringing um, can result in low self-esteem. Uh,
I actually, we have actually seen lots of people, even
yeah,
from very like a rich family, or even from very
yeah,
middle of
exactly.
society, they still have this kind of mindset. They still have this kind of like attribute to look down upon others. And also, it is not the people who are committing the racist act, but it is also the observers. This kind of confrontation leads to death or serious issue, because the observers are not coming in, they are not helping. They just think that it is not their problem, or they think that the other people, they, they are not their people. So it's not only the racist people who are doing the actual
Yeah,
act, but it is also the others. So,
yeah,
but others
that is
doesn't have any, actually, and they don't have any, actually they don't. Why do they also feel their low self-esteem? Do you think that they are also under peer pressure? Why do others also does not react on it?
I would say there are lots of complications that we also don't understand. Having lived in Delhi for 20 years and also having brought up, having been brought up, and also having grown up in my formative years in my home state. There are lots of differences one also gets to see. Okay, which is not easily accessible when we are just thinking about where we're going to study here and then get a job and do our work. But you also, since my discipline also allows me to interact more deeply with lots of people, so and also the kind of work that I had done while I was serving in NGOs, so that got me a chance. That gave me a chance to know the complications they are also feeling. I'm not like trying to sympathize or empathize racist here, but it's also important to understand the kind of complication, the difficulties, the neglects within the family themselves. The Northern Indian culture. Because I can't say much about other parts of India, because I haven't been living there. But I can say for Delhi, there are lots of families who are not supportive, and I have heard stories about families where uh, crorpatis, like in say in Indian language, they would have lots of money in the family, like big businessmen, and also would have some like decent job on the side, like being a teacher or being a kind of like a pediatrician, etc. But they would still uh, uh, they would still value the money they are earning more than their actual children. Okay, and the children are complaining about it, and there is a lot of interruption in how children are making, students basically like come and share about these things, so how they are making choices of their career. So entirely like forced down to them that you have to become this, and there's a major issue around it. Okay, so the kind of culture they also live in, there's a lot of complications that we also don't easily get access to. Okay, and coming from that, uh, the see, if we look at the statistics of suicidal rates in different states, you would see a lot more. It's much larger. The statistical figure is much larger in the metro cities than in the smaller states where people close with in close community, in more cordial relationship with one another. So there's a it's already there. So one also needs to understand that. Okay, so the lashing out or acting out of racism, which they often resort to, is actually a defense mechanism. And then they often seek out they would seek out presumably weaker victims to bolster their sense of their own sense of superiority, to just maintain the and the silent, like we also need to keep this in mind, the silent observers, the silent spectators of this whole drama. We often see that there's also differences. One can also say, it's not just me saying, but everybody has observed here, the one unique difference that we see when we come out of our hometown is if a person is like beaten up or hit by a car on the roadside, there's nobody to look after that person. But that usually doesn't happen in a kind of culture that we grew up in. Okay, so that is, it's like there's so much of not just hatred for the race, but is also there's so much of hatred within, like for the kinds of kinds of complications that they live in. So these silent spectators of these drama, the whole drama, are also a great source of their strength. So it kind of permits them to go on. Okay.
Professor Ramananda.
Yeah, no. I just want to add on this point, a few points. See, it's a matter of the perception, in the society. I just give you a few examples. According to BB Giri Institute report, that there is a big report on that. According to that report, the one of the reason for a misunderstanding or perceptions of North people is that one is the easygoing, and another is free mixing, and the friendly outlook and the mongoloid face and features is the main reason for the perception they have created for harassment or for the racist slur. Now, I just give you an example how the perception developed in some areas, like in the Vijayanagar or some local area of the Delhi. Now, many of the students from the northeast live in Delhi without their families. They live in groups. So whenever they live in groups, they always help one another. Maybe a girls and a boy. And for examples, when I study here, I study with my friends, from the Kaksing or from the Manipur, who's girl, who's boy. So whenever I want to help one girl which is from my local, and I went to their place, and the helping her to seek the room, or you can looking for the room, and then going helping her to shop and go to the market, then helping her to drop her in their residence. Now the whole mindset of the people in local have created that these boy and girls are always boyfriend and girlfriend nature, and they can do whatever they want. So all perception has been developed. So it's a very major perception developed, and you can see there are so many people. Even we live in groups like our local, like boys and girls mixed together. We live 5 people, 6 people live together. In I remember in 2000 around, around 7 of us live together in one room, one flat. There are 3 rooms around, and there are some girls and some boys. But we are from local people, and we live together, and we feel safe more in that, and even the expenditure is less as compared to living separately. So, but local people thought and they perceive us differently, and they perceive in a different manner. So that's why the mindset is developed, and then whenever the girls come out, then they will look as a very cheap girl kind of things, and their behavior is not good. So those things are there. Even boys move out, and they see that these boys are doing something, secretly or something openly, whatever they can think. And but their thought is totally different. Their perception is very wrong. So that is one of the reason which has been even accepted in a report at the BB Giri Institute. So even I give you another example. Now many of the Northeast girls, after their study, they want to help themselves. So they join in some customer care institute or the company or BPO. So once they join in the job, and sometimes their boss or their institute allow them to work, and they force them to work till night. And many of time I found that many girls come at late night around 10 o'clock, 9 o'clock. So at that time again, the local perception is these girls are coming at late, and they might do something bad thing in the society. So these perceptions leading to more crime and this perception leading to more comment, lewd comment, molestation, teasing. So these are the real actual facts about it in the reality, and the people of the Northeast are facing. More in the girls students are generally facing such kind of harassment commonly in the area where they live. This is one aspect I can mention you, because this reality is even this report has been mentioned in the Besbora committee report, which has been submitted to the Ministry of Home Affairs.
Okay, thanks a lot, Professor. So before we conclude on this topic on the mindset of racists, so I want to quickly get some opinions from you. How can we change such mindset, and how can we change the image of the Nordic people, the stereotyping of the Nordic people? What are the things that we can do on these things, on such mindset?
Is that a question to me?
Yeah, both.
Yeah, the first.
So please add on this way.
Okay.
Yeah.
In
Should I start or?
Yeah, Professor.
Yeah.
You can start. Yeah.
Okay, in my opinion, see, changing mindset is not is not an easy task. In a way, if the person does not want to change their mindset, it's not going to change. So, um, we doing something to change their mind is not going to actually work quite effectively in the long run. They might do it if, like, that there's some kind of amendment. Is made in the laws and regulations, then it might, out of fear, they might try to follow some of the rules, etc. But other than that, changing mindset it takes a long time. Okay, but from our side, some precautions can be made. Like we always see these cultural differences here. It's um and maybe, like, noticing the students, I wouldn't like to promote this idea of we have to always make these adjustments while we are still struggling to get the right kind of recognition from the entire, like, recognition from the entire nation. So I wouldn't say that we should do something to change their mind, but that is also not going to be quite effective. But understanding them can um, understanding them more thoroughly at a deeper level might sort of, like, help us uh, uh, in sort of finding our ways to uh, say, deal with them, okay, or confront them. Sometimes we also need to stand up for ourselves, that this is what we are, and we need to be a little more self-confident by saying that this is what we are and you have to accept it. Okay, I'll give an example of this, especially about these food habits. When I was residing in Munirka area on the JNU side, I was working in the NGO. So there is a group of they're, like, in the building. There are like three, four, fifth floor building, and I lived in the second floor. I think it was the first floor. Anyways, that doesn't okay. And all other, there were not a single another. There's no another person from the Northeast. So the entire building was people filled with people who are coming from different parts of India, especially from the northern side of India, right? So once I was cooking Hawaii jar and the fermented soya bean, and they all complained to the landlord. Okay, and I had quite a cordial relationship with the landlord. We would communicate in a more, like, civil terms, more in a more cordial way. So he called me and also called everybody else outside, and then he started inquiring about what is the real problem. And everybody's like, then he asked me, "What are you cooking?" Everybody is sort of, like, complaining about the thing that you're cooking. Then you have to sometimes stay calm, in those situations. If you scuffle with them, thinking that they're trying to provoke you, they're questioning you. If they're questioning something, then you have to also give a straight answer to that, accepting yourself first. Okay. So I told them that this is my food and I'm cooking it. And if they're complaining about the smells, then I will explain what it is all about. Okay. So every day there are some food which are cooked in this building, and that smells those smells are intolerable for me. But have I ever complained to you? Okay. And why is anybody complaining to my food? So they don't have answer to those kind of things. Okay, unless they go they can react, or they can outrageously, like, notoriously react to it. Otherwise, when you answer back saying that, this is what I accept for myself, you also need to accept these differences. Let them. We also need to educate them, at certain point of time. Once we come across, like, we sort of cross the vulnerable the state of vulnerability in our side, when we stand up for ourselves, then it also becomes easier to deal with them. Then you can say that this is what we are, then you have to accept it. Okay. And
Okay.
here is the difference. Yeah.
Yeah.
So I think this is one way of going about it. I mean, changing the system, asking notice people to not live in together, or to not do certain things, to not wear, or to not uh, uh, to completely stop eating the kind of food or habits that we are accustomed to. It's not going to help much, and we doing anything about it is going to. And we can't even tell them to change their minds. People are not going to change their minds by just telling them to change their minds. Yeah.
Yeah.
Professor Yamada, can you also please add
Yeah.
how to like
Yeah.
change this stereotype, and also what are things that the higher authorities should take so that there is more diversity and more acceptance of people from other society or other ethnic group?
Yeah. So see, I am on the opinion that there will be a two, a kind of step need to be taken. One is the awareness program, and another is legal, implementations of the Racist Act. Let me explain this to in a very short, term. Now, when we talk about awareness means the local must, understand, and it should be taught, and such kind of, some kind of the counseling should be done of the people and surrounding that, how the North people live and their culture is. And this will be a two-way communications, not only one-way communication. One should be, our students should also have to communicate them wherever they stay. They should, at least communicate with people, whether it's a landlord or whether the local, wherever it's possible. It's not like, you have to go to every shop and every house hall to tell them their story. But wherever you stay, whenever you have a chance to interact with them, you must interact in very cordial way, as Bibinaz has already talked about. So you have to coordinate and cooperate, and communicate with the people, how our culture and our habit and our custom and traditions, and that will make the people will understand us in detail. So similarly, when some policy of awareness program, if it is made, it will help the local to participate in such kind of counseling or interacting, like welfare associations are there, and many of them willing to participate in such kind of seminars. And I've attended some uh, counseling sessions and meetings organized by Delhi Police. So that really helped, to resolve such kind of issue. And another, the awareness program should be in most of the syllabi of our education is more towards the North Indian cultures and their traditions, and the all the history all about the majority. So we really need to aid this culture to their education, our education, the curriculum from the beginning, not from the class 12 or higher education. We should start from class 3 at least, and the curriculum should be added so that some cultural history should be taught, and the types of the traditions we adopt and cultures we really need to add into that. That will make the people understand from the beginning, so later on this will benefit a lot. Then the other side of the policy should be the making the, the strong and powerful law. Currently, the document is already with the Ministry of Home Affairs. The Besbora Committee report is there. They are demanding the amend 153A and the C, which is talking about harassment by the community and by the superior, but they did not include the racial, character, racial crime. So as a Northeast community have already demand, and this is yet to implement and yet to pass by the parliament and the executed. So that definitely will help us to solve the problem to many extent. I am not saying that they will resolve everything, but definitely this initiative will definitely help to resolve to great extent.
Okay,
Yeah.
thanks a lot, Professor, both the professors. We have to change the policy at the policy level, at the academic level, even at the individual level, and also at the legal level. So everywhere we have to make some effort so that this such type of mindset are we can eradicate, we can remove such type of mindset. I thank both the professors again. So this is the end for this part on mindset of racism. We will continue more on racism on various parts. Thank you again.